Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It's Sunday, and I've just realised I haven't moved a light, so sorry if it looks a little bit dark. I've just realised I've left the light out of my way, which is where I walk through. Yes, I've started half an hour early tonight, and before I get on with it, I want to say sorry, Siati. Siati is still streaming. I had so many people ask me about starting a little bit early tonight, and I will. It's a no-win here because of the European and the US audience. You really can't win. I don't like stepping over the top of anyone else who's streaming. It's frankly rude, but you also have to listen to your audience as well at times to try and hopefully do what they want us to do. Now, as a result of that, I am probably going to be running a little bit earlier, but it does mean I'm not going to get through everything in the same order I would usually do it. But anyway, we'll try and figure it out as we go along. Hello to everyone who's joined us tonight. Hello, Jackal PT. How are you, my friend? Kilbree, how are you? Is it me you're looking for? Can I see it in your eyes? I can't remember the rest of the words. Think it's my FPV or my... I think the Sky FPV, I think it is. Hello, Robin. How are you? W1FPV or 1 Willy FPV or whatever it is. Hello, Mike. How are you? RS, how are you? Hello, 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 hello. So, tonight we've got some stuff to talk about while I itch my forehead. We're going to talk about some new products that have launched this week because something has actually happened. The Sky is mine FPV. Sorry, my friend. Sorry, guys. If because the chat's a bit further away, I can't quite read it at the size it is. I need to make the screen bigger. The names, especially when they're quite long, I struggle with. Hello, Patrick. So tonight we're going to talk about some new products that's released this week because there has been one or two. We've had a new lap timer from ImmersionRC. We're going to talk about the gimbal recall from PyroDrone, and I just want to touch on that a little bit because it's quite relevant for anyone who watched my live stream yesterday. I did a random live stream talking about the radio, which isn't in here because I've been using it today and it's been working now, which was my Mambo. But unfortunately, there was a lot of excitement around the new PyroDrone gimbals, but unfortunately, they're having a problem with them, and we will talk about that a little bit in a minute as well. We'll also discuss if we think DJI will ever release HDOSD for O3, because whilst we now have the Betaflight, we have Avatar with it, HDZero with it, what we don't have is DJI. And the interesting thing will be is if DJI are going to listen or not. We're also at the start, we're going to talk about the bargain that is the TX16 for $60. And again, I mentioned this on yesterday's live stream for those who are watching, but I think it is a relevant subject for the main live stream as well on a weekly basis. And I'll probably talk a little bit about the upcoming Inspire 3 at the end, because that is something I talked a lot about in the past on the channel. And whilst I won't be actually probably involved, or I definitely won't be getting one because I am expecting it to be lots and lots of golden coins. However, I do want to talk about it because I've made more Inspire content probably than any other creator. I haven't looked, and it's a fact. It's a statement I'm making baseless, but I have made more than anyone else. Mike Bergman, I'm just about to set up my first O3 unit. Does it just have normal DJI OSD? O3 has full canvas mode. So you set it up like Avatar and HDZero. But we'll be talking about if they're going to ever bring HDOSD. But we will also talk about the Inspire 3 as well, because it does make things quite interesting in that world. So, now, as always, we will answer any questions you have as we go along the way. Let me just close the YouTube prompt to start an ad at the beginning of the video, as it always does. And the first thing we're going to talk about tonight, before we get into the other stuff, is just a couple of things I've seen this week which are quite interesting. Now, the first of these is going to be this, and let me get myself in the right position, which is the ImmersionRC lap timer version 2. Now, this is the RF 8-way version 2. LapRF, it's finally been released. I know a lot of people have been waiting on this. It's interesting because sort of ImmersionRC have been very quiet for a period of time, and we've started to see them do more stuff. The power meter is available again, the version 2. I'll refrain from going too much into that. But they have... No, look, it's a good product for what it is. The problem is people keep trying to use it for something it isn't. I do need to get myself one of the new ones because mine is damaged. Mine doesn't work. It is a very, very, very handy piece of kit. What the power meter isn't is a be-all, end-all device that's going to tell you how much power your system is outputting. You should use it as an indicator and not fact. The problem with it is people tend to use it as absolute fact. But overall, it's actually a very, very good product. And I could do with a new one because I damaged mine. It still works, but it's just the display's a bit burnt. But anyway, they have released the new LapRF version 2. There's not a lot to really say about this other than it's the same as the version 1 with power over Ethernet, external waterproof RJ45 connector, which will be nice and expensive, more efficient heatsink, integrated camera mount for tripods and kickstands, and optional GPS, which is always very, very good. So it's nice to see, and we are starting to see more and more from Tony and the team over at ImmersionRC, who are obviously now part of Orqa. For those who don't know, ImmersionRC are very much a part of Orqa. They have sort of come together, those two companies, as you can see here, as they had their post up telling you the reduction price, the sale price on the ImmersionRC FPV-1 pilots. They did have a permanent price reduction. If I click on them, they're now down to $499. I think it was like $569 originally. So they have dropped them in price. I have a review on these goggles on the channel. I wasn't their biggest fan, and I do think there's a lot which isn't great about them. Most of it is annoying stuff, if I'm honest. But what is super interesting is they are NDAA compliant. And they would they be the only FPV goggle available on the market today that is NDAA compliant? HDZero, probably not, simply because of the China involvement. But yeah, Orqa is yeah, I think they probably would be. Fat Shark maybe could be, but they're manufactured in China, so that raises question marks. But what we do know is the Orqas are definitely NDAA compliant, which is very, very interesting indeed. So, but anyways, we have had that new LapRF from ImmersionRC, and it's just good to see Tony sticking some new products out there. Power over Ethernet. Need a pretty long Ethernet cable from my house to the flying spot. Yeah, exactly. But I just find it's quite nice to see that stuff happening. It's good to see them as a company still producing product because they do a lot. They really, really do a lot. Now, obviously, this leads me on to the next subject, and the next one is PyroDrone. Now, I'm going to start with PyroDrone, but I'm going to talk a bit about my Mambo first. Now, for those who watch the channel, and it isn't here, actually, I've put it away. My Mambo was giving me all sorts of problems this weekend. We tore it apart, some switches fell apart, which we fixed. But I was having all sorts of issues with the gimbals. The irony is PyroDrone are also having issues with the gimbals as well. Now, PyroDrone have released a CNC version of the gimbal for the Mambo and the Tango 2. TBS have made their new version 2 gimbals, which I have put into my Mambo. I put the version 2 Pros in. It worked absolutely fine today. It worked perfect today after many calibrations. But PyroDrone had released a CNC version of the gimbal. Now, just to show you this, there was a huge amount of excitement around this because a lot of people have been asking for it. Unfortunately, they have had to issue a recall. And when I say had to, they have decided to reissue a recall. issue a recall based on a problem they've had with their CNC gimbals. And that problem is as follows. The magnet is falling out of the bottom. Now, for those who don't know how the TBS gimbals work, and I need to find mine, where have they gone? I'm trying to think what I did with my version 1s. Clearly, I was prepared for this part. Do you know what's interesting is I don't know what I did with my V1s. Genuinely, I don't know what I've done with them. The ones I took out of the Mambo. But anyway, what we're having is the magnet fall out of the bottom. Now, the way the TBS gimbal works is that there's a single Hall effect switch rather than 2 Hall effect sensors. And I say switch, sensor is a sensor. But there's a single Hall effect sensor on the PCB that the magnet moves around the top of. Now, the easiest way to describe this is if I go to the overhead, if you imagine you've got a sensor, so you have that little piece of blue tack there is the sensor. You've got a magnet, and then that moves around that sensor. So up and down, left and right, but that area around the sensor. And that is how it picks up. Now, this is slightly different to many of the other gimbals on the market. So, if we grab a set of the Radio Masters, which I do have to hand, I'm just interested what I've done with the Vision. I had a spare set, which I sent to someone as a gift, but I can't remember what I did with the old ones. No, I am at a loss what I did with the originals. That's crazy. I can't think. They're not where I expected them to be. Interestingly. No, that is bizarre. I was expecting them to be there, but I'm now really intrigued what I've done with them. No idea. Anyway, to show you how... That's really interesting. Didn't bin them. Don't think I binned them. Weird. Now, to show you how the Radio Master ones work, it's a bit different. If we go to the overhead, the way Radio Master do it, now this is a set of V4s, the standard ones. You have 2 Hall effect sensors. So there's one on each axis. So you have a Hall effect sensor here and a Hall effect sensor here. So as you move that there, so if I show you on this side here, you move the magnet and that moves on the sensor and that moves on the sensor there as well. So there are 2 Hall effect sensors on each gimbal. The sensors are part of the gimbal itself. Whereas on the TBS ones, things are a bit different. What you have is the sensor on the PCB, and I showed this in my stream yesterday. And then you have the magnet on the top, a single magnet, which moves over the top of that sensor. And what's actually happening is the magnet is falling out. Now, as for the cause of this, bad adhesive. That's where the reality is at the moment. The adhesive is coming loose and the magnet's falling out. Now, they're giving people a few options. They're handling this really well. So if we just look at the post, what they're saying is customers can check, fix, after removing the gimbal, simply put a small drop of reliable epoxy or even CA glue around the edge of the magnet, removing all doubt. So again, you could just put a bit of glue in there yourself. You don't have to send the gimbals back. Second, you can ask them, send your radio to them and they will do it for you. Or if you want to return for your used or new gimbals, they'll cover the return shipping and give you the option of a refund or credit. So they're handling this really, really well. It's just a big shame that it is happening for them for something so silly. It's an adhesive issue. Clearly, it's a glue issue. But it is interesting considering the issues that I had are falling out, and it's going to be different on the TBS ones because they're plastic, which means they can probably just push them back in. Someone's asked, does the polarity of the magnet matter? Not as far as I'm aware. It shouldn't matter as far as I'm aware, because that's what the calibration is for. The calibration should be for that purpose. But yeah, so if you've got a set, I would think. Now, I'll be honest, this setup that TBS is using on the gimbals, I really don't know. They're not the only company to have done this. Let me just turn a fire off because it's now rather hot in here. Sorry, I had a heater on it because it's winter and it's cold. But this setup of gimbals they're using with this single setup, it's not great. I've seen this cause problems before. DJI actually used this setup on some early Mavic gimbals, and they decided to go back to the original design because they were having problems. You will often get temperature-related issues with a single design, and you'll often get problems where you get the calibration behavior like I've shown here. There are some game controllers that do it this way with the signal magnet, but I don't know. I do wonder if they'd be better moving to a dual design rather than a single, to be honest. You know, it's a tough one. But yeah, look, you can put some glue in there. That's what I would personally do. That would solve the problem. It is great to see PyroDrone handling this really well. You know what they've put on the post there. Just speak to them. They'll get it sorted. You know, this isn't a design issue. It's a manufacturing issue is what this is. It's an issue where the glue is coming loose. It's not strong enough. Obviously, it's frustrating for them, but they'll get this nailed now. And as they've said, it seems to only affect 2 to 3%, but that's too many for them, so they're going to get it sorted. I know PyroDrone have a fantastic reputation in the US, so they're doing everything they can do to solve this. It's a silly fault, but it is what it is. Hopefully, they will get it sorted. And, you know, I know a lot of people were interested in these. It's actually quite interesting is they actually said how many they'd sold. They said they'd sold, I think it was roughly 1,500 gimbals. So it does show how many are out there. This isn't the problem I'm facing. This is something different. But I did thought I'd mention it because it was quite interesting. Now, with regards to my Mambo, it's worked fine today. It's been absolutely fine. Hey, Flyzone Drone, how are you? Yeah, it's worked absolutely spot on. It really, really has. It's not been an issue at all today. And I'm going to monitor it and see how it performs. I do think it seems to flip out now and again, and I don't fully understand why. I don't use it a lot anymore. It's not my primary radio because of the Boxer. I was only using it because I wanted an S-Bus connection. I could have used Crossfire. I chose S-Bus for a specific reason. I was testing something and I wanted to see. But to be honest, I think I'm just going to move over to Crossfire anyway. So that'll be the crux of it. Now, whilst we're talking about TBS, before I stop for some questions, this leads us very nicely on to Radio Master. And there is a link here between TBS and Radio Master. And that link is that you can get a TX16 for $60. And the link to this with TBS is actually the TBS store because they are the ones selling it. Now, they did have 2 models at this price, but it's now 1. because they've probably sold out of the other one, and that is that you can get the Radiomaster TX16S haul. So this is the version 1, 4-in-1 in gold for $60. Now, this is frankly a bargain. Whichever way we look at it, and we know there's issues on the V1s, not great major issues, but we know there is, but that is an absolute bargain. And it's now jumped to out of stock. Have I caused this to go? It was there when I checked earlier. It was still there before I went live. I wonder if it's just that. It was still, I double checked it. Frustrating. What I would say is this: keep an eye on TBS to see if they've got any more stock. I don't know if anyone else has been doing this sale. Wow, that must have literally gone in the last 15 odd minutes. Yeah, last stock was 10. It is a great deal, because what I would do... was it? There you go. Bardwell's stream mentioned it as well, did he? I mentioned it yesterday, but yeah, it's a great deal. It's a great deal. Hello, Andy Kirkwood. How are you? But yeah, it's a great deal. And I tell you what I would do. If I was me and I wanted one, I would pick up a set of that. I'd ask around for anyone who's upgraded to a set of CNC gimbals and ask them if you can buy their version 4s really, really cheap. And I would try and get a set of V4s in it. And you've got a good radio. You've got a real good radio there. There really is nothing majorly wrong with the version 1s. Now, it'll be interesting to see if anyone else is doing it. Radiomaster TX16 haul. Let's have a look if there is any other dealers. I mentioned it on yesterday's, first of all, because I saw it there. I don't know if anyone else is. They're gone, they're gone. So what happens when Mr. JB mentions it? Was JB streaming today, was he? But that's a shame. But there was my link to it. But if you can get one, it's a good deal. I would definitely say it's a good deal. But what I would try and do, if I got one, I would get one. I would try to convince someone who's upgraded to CNC gimbals to send me their V4s for either free or close to free. And then you've got a good radio. You've got a real good radio. So, have I looked at the ExpressRS S-Bus Experimental? Not yet. It's on my list of things to do. It is on my list of things to do. But yeah, it's as simple as that. Okay. Now, if you guys have got any questions, please do put them in the chat and I will try and answer them. That's the mini subjects covered at the start. Now, I've been out doing some testing today, and I tell you what's been quite funny is I caused myself a major problem on Betaflight today. A complete screw up on Betaflight today, which I didn't understand until I looked at it tonight and just went, oh, wow, what were you doing? And I wish I had proper footage of it, but I managed to reconfigure, not talked about DJI OSD, we'll come on to that in a moment, but I managed to configure the GPS rescue so it was trying to fight between flight modes. And I'd ended up doing this because I'd set it to do something and then do it again. Now, I'll show you guys this because this is a bit stupid. Now, I did a test today with the GPS rescue, and I was trying to figure out, there we go, if it was working as I expected. I'm just going to grab my cable. Oh, actually, the cable is in. So let me just plug in the quad. There we go. And we're going to want to open Betaflight. And I will show you the mess that I managed to create. And this is what happens when you don't bench test something. Okay, so I've been testing the Betaflight rescue, and I have got a video coming on it, and I did an initial one and we discussed it on the live stream, and I then made some changes to adjust what it did before it entered stage 2 failsafe, because what I was finding was I was getting a drop in altitude before stage 2 kicked in. And obviously what was happening was the quad was doing the default behavior, which is set throttle to 0 and hold position. I don't mean physical position, but hold the channels, which was meaning it was dropping the throttle, and it was a 1 second gap, so it was sort of dropping, and then failsafe was kicking in and returning to home. So some brilliant guys gave me some advice on this on one of these live streams to what to adjust. And what we ended up doing was adjusting the configuration, and we'll take a look at it now. We will talk about the Inspire 3, Louis. And if we go under the presets options, what we had done is made some changes to the guard, the stage 1 setting. And what we did was set the throttle to 1500 PWM, so the aircraft would punch out, and then set it to enter angle mode. So that way it would level up and punch out. That was the thought. So it would level out and punch out, and then do that for 1 second until stage 2 kicked in, and then it would enter GPS rescue. All of that sounds fine. The issue is what I have done in the background on the configuration with that. And that configuration is that I have angle mode and the failsafe on the same channel. So if I show you the modes, we've got angle mode up on channel 4 at sort of here, 1700 PWM onwards, and failsafe on channel 4 down here. Now, in my head, all of this is fine. All of this looks absolutely perfect. I set the failsafe to trigger there, angle mode to trigger there. Where the issue is in this is that the two modes are starting to fight against each other, because what happens is I'm hitting failsafe to tell it. So I hit failsafe to tell channel 4 to go to 1500 PWM, but the failsafe settings are kicking in and then saying, no, go to 1800 PWM. So it goes to 1800 PWM and back into angle mode, which takes it out of failsafe mode, but my RC is saying, no, 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 you should be in failsafe mode, and tosses it back to failsafe. And it then does this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Now, I did a flight with this to try, and I didn't record it, unfortunately, to show it. But what I can show you it is what happens in the receiver tab. So if you look here at the moment, the receiver's connected. My mode switch is working absolutely fine. And what I can do is go, okay, you know, what I want to do is go to my failsafe setting, which I'm doing there. And now you can see that it's fighting against itself. It's chucking the throttle to midpoint when it enters failsafe. But then the channels are fighting each other back and forth on the failsafe settings, because failsafe is saying, yes, I'm in failsafe, go to 1800 PWM, which kicks it out of failsafe, and then my radio is going, no, 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 you should be in failsafe, go back to 1500 PWM, and it's jumping between 1550 and 1818. Now, in flight, what I had happen was rather interesting. The aircraft would gain altitude, and it started vibrating wildly, and just kept gaining altitude and altitude, with the modes going altitude, you know, what mode did I go into? I've forgotten which mode it was. Angle, sorry. Angle, failsafe, angle, failsafe, angle, failsafe. And it just kept doing this vertically, just continuously all the way up. Now, what I don't know is if I had black box. If I got black box on this, no, I haven't. There's no black box on this flight controller, so I can't show you the black box. But it was rather interesting to see in the goggles. And unfortunately, I wasn't recording. But as you can see, I have managed to screw that up completely. And that's what happens when you don't bench test a setting, even like this, by simply switching it into the mode and going, oh dear, why is that doing that? Now, if we look on the at the top, is it giving us any errors? No, it isn't. But yeah, if you look there, look at it, look what it's doing there. It's just going bonkers. Sorry, I haven't got it on the screen. If I go there, look, it's just going bonkers. What an idiot. It's just fighting each other back and forth like, woo. So if you look what it was actually doing, it was going angle, failsafe, angle and failsafe at the same time. Complete idiot. So that was my fun with that today. And I didn't test it before I went out. So what I need to do is move the failsafe option to the same position as angle mode, just to do the test. I had it there so I could manually select angle mode on the controller. What I need to do is set the controller to enter angle mode there, but then adjust it so it's in a slightly different position. But yes. Just a silly, silly mistake to make. A silly, silly mistake to make is the term to use. But yes, rather interesting to watch. I wish I could have had the footage because it looked fantastic on the OSD. It really did. It was like the aircraft is going nuts. And at first, the guys on my Discord, because I do have a Discord, thought it might have been one of the bugs in Betaflight, but no, it was the large bug with the human skin and the flesh. It was the huge idiot behind it. So that was the person that caused the problem. So that was rather interesting today. Hello, Wes. How are you? Hope you're well. Hello, Louis. We will talk about the Inspire 3 at the end. What's the difference between failsafe and return to home? So failsafe is triggering the failsafe behavior. So whatever you have configured that failsafe behavior to, it will do. Return to home is return to home, and it's available as a separate flight mode in itself. Failsafe is you're basically telling it to do whatever the failsafe routine is. Return to home is you're just telling it to come out. So yeah, that's the difference. Just catching up on the chat a moment. Steve Jobs is why it's so difficult for radio. Why is it so difficult to get a Radio Master box at ELRS? Supply is constrained on many things right now. I've seen a lot of people ask about this. You know, look, Radio Master and all of China was shut down for Chinese New Year. There is still big constraints on components out there today, and I think that's what's hitting them. And often, look, it's easy in the West to assume Chinese New Year is just like a 2-week holiday in the UK and Europe and America where everyone goes on holiday. It really isn't. It is often the case, having had many conversations with companies in China, that a percentage of their workforce doesn't come back. People change jobs. They go home and don't return. And I'm not talking people in management positions. We're talking here the people on the production lines that make the products. It's often the case that a fair percentage of staff don't return to a company. And it causes issues for quite a period afterwards, as I understand it. And I don't know if this affects Radio Master. I'm not saying they're bad to work for or anything like that, but it is very much the case that people go home, they go away, and they decide to go and do something different, or they may not return. And that's what affects. And it can take China a few months to get back up and running. Also, COVID remains a big problem over there. So, look, it isn't specific to Radio Master. It's specific to many companies. There are issues. We're still seeing manufacturers have to change the design of stuff. Whereas I said earlier, ImmersionRC have been quiet. They've been hit by supply shortages of stuff as well. So, you know, I know Radio Master are doing the best they can do. That is what I do know. They have released something new this week, which is quite interesting. They have released a 4-in-1 module. If I just go to the Radio Master page a minute, I don't know when you can buy this, but they have released a sort of nano 4-in-1 module. When I find it, where is it? It's not. It'll be on the Radio Master website. It's a 4-in-1. There it is. Oh, I've lost it. Come back. It's a 4-in-1 in a Nano JR bay. So it's very similar to what we've seen. Nano or Micro. They've got it both. It's got an adapter depending on which one you want. So it's a 4-in-1 available. So if people are after a 4-in-1, there is one out there for this as well, which is quite interesting to see. 70 protocols, so, you know, the usual stuff. That's interesting. Photons have said Radio Master have sent a batch to Europe to their official UK retailer in Rotterdam, but it's been almost 2 weeks at customs because of UPS staff shortages. You see, everything's getting hit. It's still dodgy out there. Chibi, could you, speaking of Radio Master supply, any word on the redesigned ExpressRS Micro and Nano modules will be available? I'm guessing it's now. That they've put out the video on how to change them, but I haven't heard of anyone who's got one. So, I'm guessing it'll be any time. They have uploaded videos on how to swap them. So they've done that onto their YouTube channel. That's what they've done. Kevin Combs. Update an old Hearlink unit. When registering the device, get an error saying server is not reachable. Please check your connection. Plus Q and are gone. Those apps shouldn't be gone. Right. Hearlink struggling to connect is one of the few issues. Make sure it's connected on Wi-Fi. Make sure the time and date settings are correct. It needs the correct time and date settings or it won't communicate with the server properly. Region settings as well, make sure they're right. As long as those three are correct, it should then connect to the server. There's nothing down as far as I'm aware. It should all work. But it won't communicate if there's issues with the time and date settings and it thinks it's out. So obviously when you reset Hearlink, it should still go back to a base build. You shouldn't lose all apps. That's a bit weird. Oh, whatever FPV. I'm glad of that. The box is phenomenal. I genuinely... Look, I had a lot of people say you're a shill for Radio Master. Look, the Boxer is an interesting radio because it is the radio I have dreamed about. And there are loads of people who know this. Wes in the background was laughing his little socks off when I was talking about what I'd love in a radio. And I remember hearing a little bit about it. It really is interesting. It really, really is interesting. Nana, did I check if O3 is 144 Hertz with V2 goggles? According to DJI spec, it is. DJI actually specify it's 144 Hertz with O3 on V2s. How's it for thumbers? It's okay, I believe. I'm not a thumber, I'm a pincher, but I believe it's okay. It's nice to have you here, Andy, as well. It's good for hybrid grip. Yeah, I'm more of a hybrid sort of mixture of the two stroke. I'm about to crash. That tends to be what I am. Okay, so the next thing to talk about, and if you do have any questions, please do put them in the chat. The next thing to talk about is this. And this is DJI. And the question really is, are we going to see DJI release an update for O3, A, at all, because we haven't had one for some time, but B, are they going to give us HD OSD? Now, there is a lot of features and capabilities missing from these goggles as they stand today. For instance, the DJI Goggles 2, or the O3 system specifically, I should say, does not have options to set the power mode, does not have the ability to restrict its power output. You only can your FCC or CE, but it's also now not supporting the new HD OSD in Betaflight. Now, obviously, this new HDOSD is an update that the Betaflight dev team have added, and there has been whispers that the Betaflight dev team have been working with DJI, but as it stands today, we still don't know if DJI are going to implement this new OSD, which will mean we'll get a proper 16:9 OSD, but also the proper blocks available, the widths, the sizing, and everything looks a lot better, but also then have those additional functions like the fonts and all of the other capabilities as well. Now, I have genuinely been quite surprised at the lack of updates from DJI for O3. There are many things on this that are not as good as the original FPV system. As I've said, we have no option to restrict the power output. So you can't set it to 25 milliwatts in FCC even if you wanted to. We have a lower number of channels available to us. We have 3 instead of 4 in 50 megabits mode. Well, actually, sorry, that's wrong. You only had 3 on the V1, but you have 7 instead of 8 in the normal channel modes. We also have the original A units, which work, but they never really fixed all of the features. And there are just lots of things that don't make sense on these compared to the other system. Lots of little capabilities that just don't work. Now, it's going to be interesting to see if DJI are going to do it. Now, if you don't know what HDOSD is, I haven't got an image of what it looks like, but if I go to the desktop view and we go over to Betaflight, they do have a thing about it here which tells us it's supported and it adds the following features, and it's supported over MSP, and basically it changes the visible size of the canvas, which means you now have the much larger rows, 53 by 20 compared to 30 by 16 for PAL and 30 by 13 for NTSC. And the VTX is then able to adjust this by sending the MSP commands just like it could before. It really does look very, very nice. However, we don't have it on DJI as it stands today. Now, there has been a number of... Louis has just put up with it, people looking at hacking these. I don't know what Junus and the team's stance is on O3 at the moment. I haven't spoken to them for ages, actually. There was a point where me and Junus were messaging 10 times a day plus. And actually, I haven't sent him a message for ages. So when I come off this stream, I'm going to send him a message. I hope you're well, Junus. We've all been a bit busy. I hope you're staying safe, my friend. But, yeah, it's... Today, we're going to rely on DJI to give us these new features if we want them. And it really does remain a question as if it's going to happen before. O3, without question, has been one of the most interesting products to come out of DJI for some time. But it is beginning to feel a little bit abandoned already in the fact that we've not had many of the other features we've asked about. So there's no power options. What else is missing off O3? There's no power options. Low power mode doesn't give full RF output. You've got to have a flight controller. And you... Yeah, that's the 2 big ones at the moment, the missing ones. I thought you said HD works. It doesn't. HDOSD does not work. Normal canvas mode works, but not HDOSD. Canvas mode, but not HDOSD. Remember, they're not the same thing. Canvas mode is MSP DisplayPort. HDOSD is the smaller areas, the blocks. 24 kilohertz gyro fix. Yes, they probably need to add some filtering, and Chris Rosser has said there's no reason for DJI to have the problems they're having. But there's lots of little things on O3 that aren't great. The overall product works really, really good. But there are things that are just not as good on this. The big one is the fact that it won't enter full power mode without having a flight controller. Yeah, Vistas, everything is missing features. So, and I am surprised how slow DJI have been to release updates for the V2, the V3, V2, whichever, what do we want to call it? O3 is O3. V2 FPV system, I don't know. We can call it whatever we want. Go around in circles with it. But, yeah, they have been slow. Now, there is a lot of whispers around DJI bringing in Inspire 3, and I will talk about that before the stream ends later. But we're just going to have to wait and see, really. It has been interesting, though. that we haven't seen the development on this as fast as I thought. There's a lot of people questioning at the moment where the development is on the avatar system. Cadex have been very, very quiet as well. And there is whispers around the internet of something new coming from them. But we don't know what that is. I genuinely don't know what that is. Hand on heart. So I can speculate. Could we see Cadex releasing a sort of an O3 competitor? And what I mean by that is a combined avatar, air unit, and camera. I'm not going to say a new system. I just think they could integrate the two and sort of have them as sort of an all-in-one. Not quite work like O3. But remember, O3 is actually really limited by the way DJI have made it as well. You know, we had Steely on the stream last week who came in. It was incredible to have that man pop in to the live stream. I was blown away. And if Steely, thank you for that. I really do appreciate it, my friend. And interestingly, there is so much confusion around O3 in the way it works because of the way DJI have done the modes. So, for instance, you only get low latency modes in 100 frames a second. If you put O3 in 120 frames a second mode on goggles version 2, you're not actually in the low latency mode. You're in the normal latency mode. You only get the low latency mode in the 100 frames a second modes, not 120, not 60. So there is a lot of confusion over that. Definitely at not 25, 24. You're not getting the low latency. And again, something else that's missing from O3, I've remembered the third item, is the fact that it doesn't tell you what latency mode you're in. Now, I think DJI is hiding that on purpose because they know there'd probably be a lot more noise about it. Someone's just said, and you get 60 frames a second in 120. Yes, correct. You only get 100 frames a second mode on the V2s in 100 frames a second recording modes. What DJI cannot do in O3, very simply, is separate off video and live stream resolution. Frame rates and resolution. They can't do it. They're limited by the two. In O3, and this is the same on the Avatar, and we first saw this on the Avatar, you are limited for latency mode by the recording frame rate. Because what you can't do is record at 120 and pump at 120 and drop frames to 100 for the goggles. You just can't do that. But the O3 system is limited by those modes. And that is what is causing confusion. And DJI don't even show that in their OSD. And that's one reason they're hiding it. So there is a lot about O3 which isn't particularly great. What's interesting is the Cadex, and I'm just thinking if they could do this, Cadex could produce an air unit and action camera, but make them almost two separate entities so that the two don't converge. This is the problem. And it's processing. And as Mike, and I want to say a massive thank you to Mike, Mr. Bundy, who's an incredible man, has donated a $10 super chat, $9.99. Thank you, my friend. Thanks for everything, especially when you pop in and help. I really appreciate it. If you don't know who Mr. Bundy is, he is an incredible, crazy fool. He's not a fool, but he's a crazy man. He was one of the first people to get the Avatar goggles and rip them apart on Discord. And he was at the center of the complete storm when we saw it said a Xilinx FPGA. The man was literally tearing them apart on the group with us there. We were all there. It's one of my favorite days in FPV because the internet melted down that night. He got the goggles and we were following it through and it was just so much fun. It was for tech nerds like me, it was just so much fun that day. He wiped the paste off and he posted the picture and we're like, what? It says Xilinx. It was incredible. He is a legend, a man, a scholar, a true gentleman, and he's someone who I think is just incredible. But yeah, he's a great guy. But thank you for the super chat, mate. You will go down in history for that day. You really will. But yeah, Cadex could make a action camera stroke VTX in one, but have them sort of almost as two combined but separate units. They also need to bring out a wider range of cameras. Yes, I agree, Carl B. They definitely do. What the whispers on the internet are is Cadex have new product coming. Who knows what that is? No one knows. And the whispers are to do with Avatar HD. Maybe more goggles. Who knows? On Goggles 2, what do you set it to for best live feed performance? Whatever has to be 100 frames a second recording modes. To get the best live feed latency, the lowest latency, you can only put it in 100 frames a second. Dual camera support, please. That's very interesting. Hello, Andy. It's going to be really hard with digital because you're going to have double MIPI interface input. There's no switching like on analog. You're not going to, we've got on DJI 26 lines of data. Roughly 25, 26 lines of data on DJI. 30 lines of data on Cadex. O3 is even more. You're just not gonna you're not gonna get it easily. It's not gonna be easy at all. What you'd have to do is have dual MIPI interface and have just switching that way. It involves software to whatever the new product is. Yeah, rather interesting indeed. Mads Tech, what I got printing in the background. Behind me, I'm printing some AirTag holders for my keys because I bought some AirTags. Replace those stupid microscopic USB JST connectors. Yeah, that's a big issue. Connectors coming off boards is becoming a real issue. It really is. Did you send me a blank voice now? Hello, Sean. It's something that's happening all the time. In fact, something I did the other day for someone I don't know if it ended up helping, Sugar K, who is one of the Betaflight devs. And I need to figure out what I did with these. It might be quicker for me to find them on the Discord. But he'd posted about a connector that had come off the HDZero board. And I made up a quick pin out where to go. Let me just find them. I don't know if it helped him or not. Where is it? Where are the ones I created? They will appear in a minute. I'll just find them. And I am going to share these on repair.wiki as well, actually. They were very loose and fast. Here we go. So I created 2 images. Open in browser. That's number 1. And let me find the second one because I did 2. Open in browser is 2. So to show you these, I created these images which pin out. I'll zoom out a little. Where the firmware connection port goes on the HDZero Whoop and Whoop Lite VTX. So I did the Whoop VTX, which is this one here. So you've got the main firmware update connector here, and then I pinned out where on the PCB these go to try and help people if they have lost that connector and it's lost the pads as well. And I also did the same on the Whoop Lite, just to try and help. It was Sugar K who had one come off, and I posted these just to hopefully try and get him a bit of help. But we are seeing the same thing happen on Avatar HD as well. We're seeing this lead-free solder is so soft, it's crazy. It's really, really crazy. It's the solution. The way people are doing this isn't the right way. These pads are just not good. We either need to stick a USB on there. We either need to stick USB on, or we need to use more edge connectors where you sort of put something against it or something like that. Or we need to move to OTA on both these systems. You know, OTA perhaps is the way forward. USB-C. I think we're just going to have to swallow it and go USB-C. Kappa's MX, would it be possible to modify DJI O3 unit to send it HDMI input signal through O3 instead of a camera image? No. It would be it's just not designed for it. No. That's not a modification. That's a new product. DJI basically already have a product that does that, which is the DJI transmission system. They should put USB on the VTX or Wi-Fi updates. Yeah, to push like Express LRS. Wi-Fi would be cool. USB-C does have licensing. Yeah, there's some weird licensing around USB-C. Integrate ELRS and ESP32 for Wi-Fi transfer. Yeah, that would be good. Just get cram an ESP32 on there and add Wi-Fi. That would be the way. I'm just going to grab a drink. There is all sorts of licensing issues around that stuff. But yeah, so I have pinned them out. Tropical Zero, what really goes down in Bardwell's barn? Okay, how are you doing? 25 megabits low latency focus mode, 700 milliwatt best settings for range. 25 megawatts low latency focus mode, 700 milliwatts best Walksnail settings for range. Yeah, you keep the data rate down. Keep the data rate down. I would like to see over-the-air updates hit all of these digital systems. It just makes life a lot easier. But yeah, so I did pin that out, and I'm probably going to do the same for Avatar HD as well. Did I do anything on the HDZero 90 frames per second cam? No, I've got the camera. Flying has been a challenge. The weather has been very, very difficult. Now, I did have some time to fly it when the weather was bad, so I couldn't. Since then, there's been a number of videos that I had to get done because I'd committed to, which has now pushed the 90 frames a second camera video back. The plan is for me to try and start looking at that this week. I haven't flown it yet. Every time I went to fly it, the weather was just horrific. Absolutely horrific. It really was. Just couldn't get out. I couldn't get out for like a month and a half. That when the HDZero goggles come, I basically couldn't fly. The weather was shocking. I have the camera. It's here. I'm not going to be funny. I'm not the best person to tell you about the 90 frames a second camera. I'm not going to pretend I am. I'll give you an opinion on it. I am intrigued at Bot's findings about penetration on the 90. It doesn't make a lot of sense. He's seeing more. Where we should see the penetration benefits is in, say, the 540p 60, because dropping the resolution, you're dropping the data rate, so it should be able to hold up better. The $60 TX16 was brand new on the TBS store, but is now sold out. UBUB FPV, I think that is. Hey, Ian, what is the best advice for someone who is anxious about going out to fly? I have a friend I'm trying to get into FPV, but always he doesn't want to annoy people. You feel awkward. Yeah, you just got to get out and fly. Look, I've been accosted. I've been stopped. I've been attacked. Over the years, I've had it all. What you got to do is just keep doing it and stop. You can't worry about people as long as you know you're doing everything right. But it is hard. It is hard on your own. I mostly fly on my own. I don't have groups of people I fly with. I don't have, because of where I am, You know, I mostly fly on my own. I'll be honest, I'm even struggling with flight locations at the moment. Things, my traditional haunts have suddenly got very, very busy. Just, yeah, I'm at the stage where I might... Hiya, FPV Gizmo, how are you? I might even have to be... I might even try and rent a field. It's at the stage of that. Loner FPV here. I mostly fly on my own. I really do. I am in South Wales. But yeah, it's just, I am, you know, look, except for my spotter. Yeah, what I mean is I don't fly with other pilots a lot is the right term to use, Carl B. You are correct. My spotter is always with me. But what I mean is I don't have flying buddies. And my wife has no interest. Apart from watching. She likes to watch. I'll leave that there. Floor. Yeah. My cardboard cutout is mine. No, I won't go there. But yeah, I'm even thinking of renting a field because it's getting to the stage of it's getting to the stage where I'm even struggling. I had some really, really good flight locations, which were quite quiet places, but they're just not now. Arnie the spotter. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, there definitely needs to be more work on the digital VTXs. Now, lowest latency setting on the O3 goggles V2, 100. No, it isn't. It's 100 frames a second. 120 frames a second is not the lowest latency. Only 100 frames a second is. Yeah, I definitely need to do something. And it's really hard in the UK this time of year. Anyone who lives in the UK knows. My end of it is particularly bad, but it really is hard. It really, really is hard in the UK. When we hit winter, and that's why I just haven't been able to put the 90 frames a second in. Bot has been putting out a load of content. He really has fallen in love with HDZero. I think it's amazing. I think it's fantastic. Bot is a great guy. And it's great to see him on digital finally. And he's falling in love with a system that works for him, and HDZero is that. It really is good to see that. But we're going to have to see what it's all about. Mike Pundy, I was chuffed and stuffed by PyroDrone. Yeah, it's just hard in winter. It's really, really hard. I went to the flight field today to fly this. There's a video coming about this. I'll have to take to the wide camera in the next couple of days because this is one of the projects I've been a little bit behind on. This is a Hexoon Edu 650. This is a big Ardra copter. I've been building this and flying this and doing some tests on this, and it's a very, very big quad. Very big quad. It's a flying blender is what it is, with 15-inch pops. So, yeah, you don't want to get that wrong because it'll come after you and it'll do a bit of damage. But, yeah, I was flying that yesterday and today, and, you know, this sticks up off the ground. But even then, it was very wet today. Very wet. What you forget is how quiet a big quad is as well. You forget how big quiet a big quad is. 15-inch props, carbon fiber. You don't want to be close to it if something goes wrong. And there's much, much bigger than that out there. But, yeah, I'm going to do the 90 soon. I'm gonna try it this, and look, I'm not going to openly say I'm the best person to tell you. I will be sharing my thoughts on it, absolutely. Failsafe says it did surprise me the difference in penetration at 90 hertz. Interesting. It's not what I would have expected, because 90 is not designed to give improved penetration. You're just moving the data around. The thing with HDZero is quite interesting. HDZero, unlike DJI, has a fixed link. So, DJI has its 40 megabits a second mode, which is, DJI has its 40 megahertz mode, which is 50 megabits a second. Remember, carrier width, 40 megahertz across the band, which allows up to 50 megabits of data. You've then got the 20 megahertz and 10 megahertz modes, which equate to 25 megabits and about 15, 16. Roughly that. That's what DJI has. HDZero is different. HDZero has a fixed bandwidth. It's about 26, 27 megahertz off the top of my head, if I remember the carrier. It might be a bit less. When I've looked at it, it's like 25, 26 megahertz wide, roughly. But you got to take into account 20, 25 megahertz. So that's fixed. They can't change that. That Carl has told me that is his hardware set in stone in his current system. So his pipeline is fixed. All he can change is what he pushes through it. So, for instance, if he wants more frame rate, he's got to drop the resolution. If he wants more resolution, he's got to increase. If he wants more resolution, he's got to drop the frame rate. Hence, 1080p 30, 540 90, 720 60. That the pipeline he's got is the pipeline he's got. He can't put any more through it. All he can do is change what goes through. Now, the effect of penetration is going to be normally based on how much data you're sending. Its capability to recover. In theory, a 540-60 mode is going to have less data in the stream, more option to be able to recover, therefore better penetration. I'm just surprised the 90 hertz mode is improving penetration. I would not expect it. In theory, just as a loose theory, 720p 1080p 30, 720p 60, 540 90 should all perform the same from a penetration point of view. If they're using the same bandwidth, pushing it all through, it should roughly be the same. And where you would have benefits is then doing things like dropping the frame rate on a lower resolution. So 60, 540. That then should give you some benefit. I haven't watched them myself. I've just seen some comments on it. So I need to have a look. But if it works, it works. We'll all take it. We'll all take it. And I am going to test it myself. I am 100% going to test it myself. To be honest, I'm really good. It's this week. It's this week's plan. It's this week's plan. Thoughts on Mr. Steele's refresh rate test? I haven't seen it. I'd have to watch that one. I want to catch up on some stuff this week as well. I haven't had a chance to catch up on a lot myself. I have been struggling too. Now, guys, if you've got any questions, do put them in the chat. We're going to finish before we finish tonight. I'm not going to finish quite yet, but it won't be too long. We'll be done by 11 tonight. I'll be talking about the Inspire 2. But no, if you've got any other questions, let me know. So, HDZero DJI, there are some differences. Question, could they optimize something else? Yeah, potentially. I do believe a lot of Carl's stuff, though, is set in stone. Carl is an ASIC designer. Carl is doing an awful lot of his work in hardware. Carl is doing an awful lot of his video encoding and all of the processing of HDZero in hardware. That's what Carl is. He's a hardware ASIC engineer. It's not like DJI where they can just produce a new version of software and roll it out. You know, remember, largely O3 is software and a bit of extra hardware. You stay safe, Peppermint. My Radio Master TX16S insists on resetting the date and time every time I turn the radio off and on. I started to notice this problem after updating to Edge TX 2.8. Have I heard about it? I haven't heard about it. Have you checked the battery is okay inside? Because there's a battery in most of these, isn't there? If we look at the PCB, there should be a real-time clock battery. It could be that your battery's gone flat. I would expect there to be a battery in there. If there isn't, I will be astonished. And also clearly wrong. But I would expect there's got to be a battery in there for the RTC. Yes, there it is. So if we just go onto here, if you look at this picture here, this is the PCB in the radio. There's a battery there. TX16 replacement main board. So you want to be looking at that battery. That battery is lightly flat or dead. I'm not aware of any issues, but the chances are the battery's gone. Now that's via Ben in the UK. Has he got that in stock? Yeah, now in stock. But yeah, you've got that real-time clock battery in there. Yeah, you can see it there, look. There was some pictures then. It's 2032, is it? Well, according to this, that's a CR1220 is what that is, according to this. CR1220. That's what that looks like. I haven't had a chance to watch his videos. I watch a lot of videos on a weekly basis. I haven't had a chance to watch his testing videos. I do watch his videos. I haven't seen that yet. Which is your stream and you don't. I haven't. The amount of stuff I watch on a weekly basis. I do watch a lot of people's stuff, but I've openly said I don't have the ability whilst making content to watch everyone's content. So I didn't even know JB was back. I didn't even see he streamed earlier. I was watching Siati's stream before I come on a little bit because I like Siati. I like all of them, but it's just time. I'd never make any content myself if I was watching everyone else's. Unfortunately, it becomes a problem. You haven't watched it either. I hope you're well, Wes, as well. Yeah, that's the thing. But yeah, CR20, according to that, let's see if I can find another picture of it. Is that a better picture? Every picture I look at is, yeah, CR1220 is what it is. Yeah. Okay, Scott says his is fine. I'm not aware of any issues. It'll be the battery. Probably just gave up. They don't last forever. I don't know what time he streamed today. I don't know. I didn't even realize JB was back. I know he's been away, but I didn't realize he was back. He messaged me the other day about something, a quick question on the antennas for the goggles too. But I'll be honest, I noticed he's been away for a bit because he hasn't been doing the news and stuff like that. I was wondering, I think he's been traveling, someone said. So, test it with a multimeter, should be 3 volt. Hi, David FPV, how are you? Now, guys, if you've got any questions, please do put them in the chat. Super chats are always welcome, but they're not required for me to answer a question. I should start making them required the way the YouTube's going. My God, YouTube is going down the pan. Here it is. This channel grew like hell last year. We've had the up, now we're on the down. My God, is YouTube falling off a cliff? Oh, obviously people aren't liking my content. But yes, the views and everything. Here's what's something which will shock people. Maybe not, but it's a term I like to use. Obviously, people make an income off YouTube, and I can promise you this, mine is halved in the last 2 months. 50% of what it was before. That just shows you how volatile YouTube is. Did JB have midstream ads? Did he? Yeah, JB might be seeing it too, genuinely. Nicely done, my friend. Nicely done. Midstream ads on JB's stream today. Were they? What, did he read them? Or did he do the YouTube one? It's winter, spring's around, things will pick back up. He might be trying it. YouTube's trying to get me to put an ad in now. I don't think he had a choice. Oh, right. Did he press something or did it just do it? Did YouTube just do it to him or something? I don't know. I'll have to catch up on JB's stream now then. I usually would anyway. I am a big fan of JB, a massive fan of JB. In fact, I am a patron of JB's. They just popped up. Got to watch YouTube on that one. But yeah. Yeah, it just shows you. Yeah, but YouTube's just crazy. You can't rely on it, you know. But what I found interesting, look, I've made a lot less content in the last month or so than I usually would. But it just shows you cannot trust YouTube ad revenue. It is so variable. Oh, thank you, Brian Lewis. That's incredible. Thank you, my friend. $5. That's amazing. That makes up for the shortage. You've done a lot for the community. I appreciate that. And look, and this leads me nicely onto Patreon. And this isn't a Patreon shill. This is just me saying a massive thank you to all of my patrons, because where YouTube has been going down, Patreon's been doing that a little bit as well on the flip side. And Patreon is, you know, I know Bruce is a massive fan. And look, I'm not great at it, but I do appreciate every single penny everyone donates on Patreon. It is incredible. And you are all amazing people. I am useless. I do not provide you any extra value on Patreon. I don't. I just don't. Time is difficult. But what you are doing, I promise you, is keeping the channel going, because we wouldn't be able to do it without you. That, I promise you that. Without the Patreon and the little bit of ad revenue, I may as well, I would be closing the door and walking away. It's just, yeah, it's just, but look, it's been quiet in FPV, but what's interesting is just to watch the dive. And do you know what's really quite bad is the way YouTube tells you how bad it is and basically says it's your fault. It says things like, you've been publishing less, which is why you have less views. And whilst that's helpful, it's also derogatory. You know you're publishing less, and I don't need YouTube telling me that's the cause of my channel going downhill. But look, I can even see it in the views of recent videos have been a lot lower than where they usually are. But that is what it is. You just take it. It's all, you get the good and the bad. What's really interesting and what's been amazing is the growth of the channel has remained the same. It's just the views are down. So the subscribers coming on board the channel remains the same. It's just the views that are down. So yeah, it's just interesting to watch at the moment. It's just interesting to watch. Premium users don't get the midstream ads. Ah, right, okay. Look, I have firmly stepped away from mid rolls, and I have no intention of putting them on. I put ads at the start, allow ads at the end. They're not going in the middle. Something fishy, even though you have less videos as here. I get you. Less suggestions from you, and I have to specifically look for you. Yeah, that's what YouTube does with it. That's what YouTube. You've been slacking off with going to the gym. That's why you're getting fat. Yep. Thanks YouTube. Yeah, it's just quite funny. I don't have premium. I am tempted. Thank you, Focus I think it's Focus FPV. Thank you, content, my friend. You're one of the aces in the FPV space. I appreciate that. That's really kind. Thank you very much. Yeah, you know, look, last week was amazing to see Steely pop in. Look, there's been some real highlights the last 12 months, and Steely popping in is absolutely one of them. JB popped in one day and caused havoc. Steely popped in and caused havoc. There's been some great people popping in and causing havoc. Many, many great people. Ken Dobo pops in now and again. Ken's a friend, as is Sean. I love Sean popping in. He's a good friend as well, as is Bruce. Bruce is someone who I immensely am proud to be able to call an FPV friend. Bruce is the reason I'm in the hobby at all. I wouldn't be in the hobby without Bruce. Bruce is an incredible person. He hasn't died yet, has he? No one's noticed. He's not lying there in the corner or something. No one's noticed. His corpse stiff and rotting up. As long as he's not dead, he's one of my favourite people. Thank you, Kimbo. I appreciate that. I'm always kind to Bruce, but Bruce is genuine. One of the OGs and one of the reasons I even do it at all. We all love Bruce. I think he's building a boat. Yeah, he's upsetting some regulator. somewhere. Yeah, he could be dead. There's standard rules for Bruce. The day he dies is Top Gear rules. So it's Top Gear rules of you just carry on. Yeah, what's been interesting is I've had a number of companies. I have had a company reach out which another creator is using, which I never replied to. I didn't feel it's right. I haven't found something which I feel works yet. I'm lucky to be in the position to not need... The money buys the product to be able to talk about. The money doesn't pay the bills. If I don't have the money to buy the product, then I can't buy the product. But look, it all goes back into the channel. That I can promise you. But hopefully we'll have some products to buy soon because it's been quiet. Right. The last subject, and this won't interest a lot of the audience, but the last subject I want to talk about is the rumors and whispers around an Inspire 3. Now, I am going to do a separate video on this. I have made a huge amount of content on the Inspire 2, not the Inspire 3. Let me just have a look at how many videos I've made. Actually, let me just check this. I have... Let me just go and have a look. If I go onto my own channel... And if I go under playlists, because I should have playlists for this. So, there will be... Oh, not that one. What am I doing? All playlists. So, we want to find the Inspire 2. Which will be here somewhere. It might... Oh, God. Click the wrong button. Trying to find playlists on your own channel is horrific. Where is the Inspire 2? I might have to go on Studio. Wait a minute. I can't even find my own playlist for the Inspire 2. Shocking. I'd love to do a teardown of the Inspire 3. DJI won't be talking to me about that anymore. In the old days. Have I reduced the number of playlists I had? Is that what's happened? Oh no, wait there. Page 2. Page 3. I thought I'd... So, I have 24 Inspire videos. And then Crystal Sky and Sindence might be under a separate heading. 26 Crystal Sky videos. And 14 Sindence videos. I can comfortably say there is no one who has made more content than me on those products. From that. So just to show you, on the Inspire 2, I have 24 vids. Some of these have got some very low views. Some of these have got some very high views. We then have the Crystal Sky videos, 26 videos. And then there's the separate Sindence videos, which I made at release as well. With some... Look, there should be some big numbers on some of these Sindence videos. 114,000 views. I have a lot of videos on the O3 and the Inspire and those. I fell off DJI's Christmas card list. Yes. Anyway, so... There's a lot of rumors... around yeah. I was the first person to have a Sindence outside of DJI. I was one of the first, I believe. I was the first person to make content on the Sindence. I made the initial review. I was the only person to have it because I beta tested it. And Crystal Sky. I beta tested Crystal Sky. Alpha and beta tested them is the right term to use. But anyways, that's when DJI liked me. But there is rumors of a new Inspire 3. And I have an Inspire 2. Mine's behind me. And I love that drone. But there was a lot wrong with it. And there's rumors around a new one. And I'm going to talk a bit, first of all, about what the rumors are with the new one and what I hope they fix. Because the Inspire 2 was a great drone. And we're going to have to go onto Twitter for this one to get to Olslav or whatever his name is. We're going to need Twitter for this one. Olslav or whatever, because he's the DJI leak guy. He's the guy where you usually see the stuff. Here we go. Here's his Twitter profile. It's this guy here. So what we've now got is some leaked images here. So this is from the manual. What surprised me in this is that it looks a lot more like the 2 than I was expecting. I was expecting the 3 to be a complete redesign, I'll be honest. I can see some interesting things. So 61 here is interesting. Let me put my mouse pointer on a sec. So what we will have here is, so we've got a new FPV camera at the front here. There is a new, much larger camera here. This will be the X9. This is what that will be. So that camera will be the X9. Full frame, most likely. We'll be using the DJI DL lens set. Still, the transitioning style, very surprised they've stuck with it. We've got the motors, very similar to the Inspire 2 ones, the way they look, actually. But there is some new stuff here. You can see there, that little oval bit there, right? That looks like LEDs. And look here. Look in the corner of each arm. 62 there, 61 there, 571 there, and they're not showing the back corner. That will be object sensing cameras. That's what that's going to be. You're going to have an object sensing camera in each corner of the main legs. There doesn't appear to be one on the inside legs at all, so it's not looking like sort of that. But there definitely appears to be one there, and then there'll be one on that back corner. They will be doing probably object vision through the front FPV camera as well. And then, has he got a back image? No, there's a side image. You can definitely see the cameras there and there. LEDs, cameras. Maybe combined TOF sensor than LEDs. The only things that could be is a TOF sensor. So TOF sensor and cameras on the corner. You've got the FPV cam there. The mechanism. And then at the back, and I don't know, is there a back view? There's a top view, so the GPS will be there because it'll be a magnesium frame again, I suspect. And then you'll have the GPS. They'll have a plastic part for the GPS because it can't see through the magnesium. They had to do that on the Inspire 2 as well. Here, 63. Notice here and here, upwards facing object avoidance sensors. That's what that will be. And there's no back image to show us. What is interesting, though, is that's folding propellers, which we didn't have before. That's folding props. I can tell you that now. That looks like folding props to me. I could be wrong, but that looks like folding props. Unless it's a new removable prop design, but that looks like folding. Now, there has been some other images from him as well. We've had, where are these? There's some images of it down here. You can't quite see a lot here. You can see, again, it appears to be a dual battery. And what you can see on this image is rear sensors here and here. I think that's rear sensors either side there and there as well on the back. So you got upwards here and here, rears here and here, and then you got corners 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they'll be frontward mount probably with TOF. Looking at this, there's no prop adapters there, so I reckon they're folding props. I reckon most likely folding props are standard, and that's why they're removed. Dual battery setup remains the same. Probably a new battery. I bet the TB50 will go. We'll probably have a TB60s. Don't know. Something like that. And you can see there's the camera, you know, on the floor there. X9, most likely full frame. Could be Super 35, most likely that. This will probably be an airborne version of the camera that comes on the Ronin 4D. So if we look at the Ronin 4D. It's very much going to be a version of that. Maybe not quite that. Maybe a bit smaller. I'd be shocked if they release an X7 unless they do an X7S with some improvements. But the chances are it's going to be somewhere around that size. Now, I think there's going to be some big changes with the i3 compared to the i2. It's probably going to come with that new remote controller that we've seen on the likes of the M30 and those drones, a much newer, updated controller. But I think the big thing is going to be the price, and I think this is going to go into a whole new level of pricing compared to the Inspire in the past. We are probably going to be talking, I reckon, upwards of 10 grand for the kit, whereas the Inspire 3 was about £3,500 in the UK. I reckon it is going to be very, very expensive. I reckon the beard alone is probably going to be upwards of 6.5K. You're going to be talking 3 or 4K for the camera, and then the DL lens set on top of that. If you don't know how much DJI charge for their DL lenses, it's incredible. DL lens, their lenses are crazy money. To give you an idea, for those who haven't seen, their lens set as a set was £4 grand just for the set of lenses for the X7. Just for the lenses was £4 grand. So this craft, I reckon, is going to be 6 to 7 for the body and the beard only. It's going to be probably 4 or 5 for the camera and another 4 or 5 for the lens set. This is going to be a 12 to a 15 grand beard. I do not for 1 minute, plus batteries, yeah, I do not for 1 minute see this coming in remotely near what the Inspire 2 was. And this is one of the reasons I won't be involved, I'll be honest. Number one, I can't go in at that price. I would love to be involved with the Inspire 3, having made more content than probably anyone else. But I just don't see it. There is no world where I could make that happen today. I can promise you that. Now, I hope they get this right, because I've had multiple Inspire 1s and Inspire 2s. And whilst the Inspire 2 is an incredible aircraft, I have the X5S on mine. I never got the X7. It really was a compromised bird that DJI never fixed. There are many issues that the Inspire 2 never worked properly with. For instance, whereas they fixed one problem, they then caused others. So they had the yawing issue with the Inspire 2. And for those who don't know, the aircraft or the camera would just continuously yaw on its own. That would happen. You then had the fact that it really isn't that stable in flight. The Inspire 2 moves around in quite a large box, 2-3 meter box. The hovering stability is not great on the Inspire 2. It's not a stable aircraft. It really isn't. The Inspire 1 wasn't either, and I've always wondered if this is largely down to that folding frame. I've loved the design of my Inspire 2. It's an incredible aircraft, but it's not the most stable aircraft. There's then all of the issues that they never fixed. There was ongoing licensing issues with the ProRes RAW or the Cine DNG. There was so many issues around that for pro users. It was ridiculous. You couldn't get SSDs at one point. The fact that the live view transmission system isn't great. It's OcuSync 2, but it plays up left, right, and center. They did an amazing job with the Syndense remote. I really loved the Syndense, but it was crippled by DJI software on the Crystal Sky. You never had all of the options that should have been there because they were never released. And the aircraft just never felt finished. It constantly had bugs. It would not record. It would record sometimes, not others. It just had a constant host of issues that drove pro users up the wall, and they never fixed. And there's no excuse. And then they went on to introduce the low power mode feature, I may add, that would steal the power away from you when it felt the battery was sagging and meant it wouldn't fly back in a moderate wind. Now, I've never experienced this myself, but there are too many accounts of this happening to ignore it, and they introduced that as a result of the issue they were having with the TB50 and the TB55 batteries. And again, it was a classic example of DJI gimping a product to solve a problem that they had with the batteries. And it wasn't the first time. They did exactly the same with the Inspire 1. The Inspire 1 had a problem with the batteries would sag and the LVC would kick in, the low voltage cutoff, and it would fall from the sky. So what DJI did was gimped the amount of power it had available to prevent it sagging the battery so much. They reduced the available thrust on the Inspire 1, and they basically then, years later, ended up having to do the same thing again on the Inspire 2. So they really did let commercial users down with the Inspire 2, but also hobby users as well. And whilst it is an incredible aircraft at what it does, it's never been finished. It's never worked properly, and it remains an unfinished product with huge amounts of potential that it never delivered on. Now, that isn't to say the Inspire 2 isn't one of the most widely used drones for proper cinema footage, cinematography today, because it is. With all of the issues it has, I know there are people out there who fly the Inspire 2 daily and get outstanding results. It is a tool and it does work, but it isn't one that was ever finished. And I really hope DJI, with whatever they do on the Inspire 3, bring the fixes that people wanted in the past. The FPV camera on the Inspire 2 was basically junk. Complete waste of time. Hopefully the Inspire 3 will have an O3. It'll have all-round object avoidance sensors. Fantastic. But that doesn't make it a good product. It needs to be stable. It needs to stay with you where you put it, and it needs to act like a flying tripod in the sky, just like their modern drones of that time did. The Mavic 2 was light years ahead of the Inspire 2, the way it behaved. It needs to be stable. It needs to not move around in a box. It needs to stay where you put it, combat the capabilities of the wind that are around it, which it's big enough to do, but then deliver the footage we want in a cine platform. It needs to be able to do ProRes RAW, although that's a licensing thing. Cine DNG, fantastic, but the SSDs need not to be red prices. We shouldn't be paying the money that people are having to pay for the SSDs, and then they're slamming you on their lens set for $4,000 on the X7. Now, don't get me wrong, it's $1,000 a lens. Anyone who buys high-end camera lenses knows that's cheap. Trust me. I have lenses over there that cost more than that. I'm not someone who doesn't know what a decent lens costs. It's a reality. But the Inspire series used to be a drone that sat not at the Ultra Pro level, but better than the Mavic. And my concern with the Inspire 3 is that DJI are going to push it into the stratosphere, try to make it red-like capable, but it won't be. It won't have all of the same features. Oh, I don't believe. I could be wrong. But there is a lot of exciting capabilities here, because just think what DJI could do. We could have an Inspire with O3 technology, amazing live feed with picture-in-picture, high-quality 1080p transmission with a secondary 1080p live view image for the FPV camera, which is gimbal stabilized. Then we could have an X9, maybe X7, X9 camera with Cinema DNG ProRes RAW, a drone that is super stable, but a drone that also integrates all of their newer technology, works with DJI transmission, So it could work with the DJI transmission display. So not only do you have the camera up on that new remote, but anyone with a DJI display would be able to view the live feed footage as well and record it on the ground at that res. Then have it being able to be tied into their other products. So there is huge potential here for the Inspire 3. But they need to get the basics right. We can't have battery issues. We can't have problems with their gimping its output performance 2 years, 3 years after it's released, simply because they found a fault that they can't fix because it's hardware, and now they're having to screw users by doing it. This product needs to be what the Inspire 2 should have been. The Inspire 2 was the ME of Windows. I'm not saying it was terrible, because it had a lot of good, but it never worked properly. And that's what the Inspire 3 really does need to be Windows 10. And that's what it needs to be. It really, really does. But who knows? I am really excited about it. But the sad thing is, I won't be involved. There's no way in hell that's going to happen. And I would love to be sharing all of the experiences like I did on the Inspire 2, but it's simply not going to be the case. But I am excited nonetheless, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes. So that's my thoughts on the Inspire 3. Okay, so some questions before we finish this one up. Corbin Weston, if you guys have posted any and I've missed before I do Corbin's, please put them in the chat now and I'll try and catch up on them. Question for you, Mads. Do I think the 3 dB loss from using a UFL to RPSMA pigtails with the O3 unit would be noticeable? I wouldn't be worried about that. I would just do it. I think it'll be fine. Adrian Glenser, battery tech since the Inspire 2 has come a long way. Yeah, it's not really the battery tech. It's they've just had stupid problems. They just have had stupid problems that they should have learnt from years earlier. You know, look, I should be fair and say the issues they had with the Inspire 2 battery wasn't really their fault. It was a firmware issue with the manufacturer of the chipset, who makes the chipset. But it was an issue nonetheless. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. Try it. You should be fine. You're going to have to see how much loss you get. If you're not happy with the range, you might have to go direct. I haven't noticed any major issue with pigtails. Elmo Herc. Do most flight controllers have enough power for the O3A unit? My opinion on that is yes. And the reason I say that is we are not seeing people reporting loads of burnt out flight controllers. The wattage requirement of O3 is about 15 watts. Okay, so just to give you an idea, that's about 1.5 amp at 10 volt, 1.6 amp at 9 volt, 900 milliamp at 4S, 600 milliamp, 600 milliamp at 6S. So if your back on your flight controller is 1.5 amp at roughly 10 volts, it should be fine. If it's 9 volt output and 1.5 amp, I think it'll be fine. I wouldn't worry too much. I've not seen any burnout. A lot of the noise was over Ken Dobos, but we don't know what Ken's fault was. Ken is an amazing guy, he's a friend, but what we don't know is the cause. There's a lot of assumptions, but there's no facts about the cause. And we haven't seen any other iFlights burning backs. I honestly don't think there's a problem. Cool Cut, it's a shame DJI doesn't realise honest reviews are beneficial to their product promotion. They don't give their customers credit to sniff out decent gear. Yeah, what's really going to be sad is they're going to send this to all of the usual suspects and they're going to tell you how fantastic it is and everyone's going to run out and spend the money, and then 6 months later you're going to start seeing people go, oh, well, what about this or what about that? And look, I'm not saying there are not genuine reviewers out there, but there needs to be a certain eye over products in a different view. And I look at products very differently to most people, especially with the experience I've had on the i2, on the i1, on all of their consumer drones. I would love to you know, done it. But yeah, I'm not saying people will lie, but what gets glossed over is, oh yeah, we haven't done that yet. And that doesn't get talked about. And there's loads of stuff on the i2. They're reviewers, not testers. Reviewers are a complicated term. Most of them are marketing. And that's the problem. Most of them are marketing. And that's the sad fact about it. Look, be under no illusion. Marketing is big business. They'll tell you what they don't like, but do they go really, you know, and look, there's a lot to look at on the Inspire 2 compared to the 3, compared to the previous gen. There's a lot to look at. Do you fly any helicopters? No. Well, apart from the ones with 4 props. No. No, I don't. I've never been a chopper man. The big carbon-bladed ones scare me for many reasons. And some of the way I see people fly is incredible. Power looping in Inspire 3. I tell you what I was genuinely tempted to do, and I don't want to do it on mine because it'll spoil it. I was really tempted to build a hybrid Inspire 2 with a Cube Autopilot in it, an Ardra Pilot, and fix half the problems. Leave the DJI bit in for... I'll be honest, I reckon you could even mount... You don't even need a cube in it now. I reckon half of these Maytech flight controllers would fly well. How much is a used Inspire 2 these days? That's the sad bit. I can't even sell mine for good money anymore. I could get a cheap Inspire 1. 10-inch quads with the carbon props. Yeah, I don't mind. 10 to 15 is my comfortable territory. Above that, I start getting twitchy. Someone sent me some pictures of some very, very big ones the other day. How cheap can I get an Inspire 2? Not cheap enough. I've an entire 2 for 400 euros. Wow, Louis, that's worth it. That's actually not bad. But yeah, we're still talking. Some people are trying to sell them for big money. But yeah, $2,500. You're not getting it though. I'd love to put like a Louis, you know what I mean? The modern flight controllers, put something in with a H7 running Ardra Pilot and just see how well it flies. The Inspire 2 does. It flies terrible. It flies okay, but it's just all over the place. They've got a really expensive gyro in it as well, but it just can't hover in one place. It just can't. Be very cool to do something. Right, okay. Yeah, it's... Yeah, acro mode on an Inspire 2 could be fun. Very fun. As you say, power looper and Inspire 2. Ardra Pilot. Betaflight on an Inspire 2. How would Betaflight react on an aircraft that big? I never probably be alright. Ardra Pilot would. Could be fun. Could be very, very fun. Always, something like that is always amusing. Maytech gets the job done. Yeah. Yeah. I guess the resonance profile on an Inspire. Yeah. Have you ever seen how the arms shake on an Inspire 2? Genuinely. Have you seen the movement? There is... There was a known issue on the Inspire 2 with arm wobble. And it was like that. I'm just trying to see people watching it in flight, and the wobble is not good. Is not good. Here's something interesting. So let's look at this. Someone's showing here an Inspire 2. They were saying their aircraft isn't stable in flight. Let's have a look how stable that is. I'd say that's stable for an Inspire. That's stable for an Inspire 2. That's stable. That's the Inspire 2 all over. That's exactly what it's like. It moves around in a box of about 1 to 2 meters. But yeah, the Inspire 2, it has a habit of loosening the arms as well, which doesn't help. But that's, I'd actually say, quite stable for the Inspire 2. And I tell you why it's quite stable. It's a bit windy, so it's actually heading into the wind a little bit. Unstable hover. I'm going to look at what people say in the posts in a minute. I'll be intrigued because I suspect he's just showing how calm it is. What did people do? My i2 is, someone said, my i2 is quite similar. Ours is on the Inspire pilots as well. P4 Pro does much better, which it does. Normal. The editor wrote normal. If you don't know who the editor is, he's been around a long time. I wonder if I replied on this. Were they? Let's have a look if I replied at all. No. Yeah, no, that's normal for an Inspire 2. It's freaking all over the place. It really is. It's not a great aircraft. Yeah, I remember they do shake like hell. Chris Ross would have a heart attack. Wasn't there files to print an Inspire 2? There was some. Yeah, there was. Cool cat on the bando. Yeah, I'd love to do Acro mode on the Inspire. That would be cool. I did Acro mode on a Phantom once. I'll have the video of that somewhere. I bought a shell and built a quad in the shell. Went like stink. Just didn't weigh anything, did it? Didn't weigh anything. Right, guys. We're going to wrap this stream up. I want to say a big thank you to everyone who has donated on the Super Chats tonight. It has been incredible. Thank you very much. I want to say a massive thank you to all of my Patreons once again. I would not be able to keep doing this. Thank you for spending some time with me again on a Sunday night. We will be back same time, same place next week, most likely. It is a bit quiet at the moment in FPV. It is hard to find subjects to talk about even. I do have some content coming this week. I'm going to have a video coming on O3, which is one, answering a lot of questions that I get on a daily basis. For the people experienced and stuff who aren't having problems, it might not be for you. But this video is a complete diagnostic video for O3 on every problem I get asked on, and the fix, starting from power, it won't turn on, through to how to bind, through to how to get the OSD working, and what happens if your OSD isn't wired properly, and what happens if your OSD isn't configured properly, right through to signal problems, what to check, what to look for, and at the end. And hopefully it's going to be a start and finish sort of diagnostic guide for O3, because I keep seeing the same questions come up time and time again on it. There is going to be a video on that quad coming in the next couple of days, that big thing you saw earlier. There's also a couple of Cube Pilot ones coming, because it's been that time of year for me doing the Ardra Pilot stuff, because I can't go out and fly. It gives me time to do the stuff in here. But now the nights are already getting later in the UK, the lighter at night, so I'll be able to get out, and I need to do that 90 frames a second one. I really do want to see how it works. But what's actually interesting is being able to stand back and look at other people's thoughts. So now I've got a bit of a new direction to go on it, and one of the real things we're going to look at is penetration on that 90 frames a second camera as well. Anyway, thank you all for spending time. I appreciate it. Stay safe. Look after yourselves, and I will speak to you too. Soon? Too? I will speak to you too. I'll speak to you too. See, this is what happens. This is the stuff you don't see in the videos. This is the nonsense I talk and get wrong. You wouldn't believe how many takes it takes sometimes to take a video. You wouldn't believe how many takes it takes sometimes to take a video and get a proper take out of it. Honestly, it shocking. Absolutely shocking. Anyway, later.